Todd Greene, Vice President, Community and Economic Development, Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta. So, as you know, the Federal Reserve is responsible for the nation's monetary policy, and we're responsible for ensuring two goals. One is around price stability, the other one is around full employment. So that is a very big responsibility, but we also engaged at helping improve local communities through our community and economic development function, bringing some of that data analysis and intelligence to bear so that local economies can improve. Economic development has traditionally been focused on increased investment and also new jobs. And that typically has been the measure. But for me, my passion is certainly around not just the numbers, but it really is about the dignity that it affords individuals and families. So economic development is not only just about those numbers, but it's also about building communities, it's about families, it's about individuals, and it's really about improving our society. So actually, I impact these people's lives on a regular basis when I'm in the grocery store or when I'm out and about doing my errands at my church or wherever I may attend. And so I don't necessarily know that many people know what an economic developer is or what an economic developer does. So I don't necessarily get an opportunity for anyone to say thank you for the work that you've been doing to improve our economies and ensure that we have employment and viable employment. So I can't say that I've had that opportunity of individuals that I encounter to say thank you for the work that you do. I think that in order to be successful in this field, you've got to receive some sort of intrinsic value around the work that you do, and often it's a thankless job. So if you're engaged in a new ribbon cutting, for example, it usually is the elected official or someone else who receives that glory or accolade. So this is a place that I think most economic developers are very comfortable or very well positioned to be in that kind of role where perhaps they aren't receiving the thank you. I did. I was fortunate enough to, when I began my career, I worked at Georgia Tech. And my boss there was a gentleman by the name of Rick Duke, who's currently the director of entrepreneurship at University of West Florida. And there, he really helped to establish a couple of things, not only my technical skills with respect to thinking about economic development, not about feelings necessarily, but about data analysis and making sure that I can push forward or bring forward successful evidence-based strategies in assisting communities, the communities with which we worked, but also other parts like integrity and making sure that we continue to think about the people that we're serving and also always doing the right thing. Economic developers are often faced with ethical dilemmas on a regular basis, and certainly having a successful role model or person who thinks ethically at the beginning of my career, I think has always helped me to make sure that I view everything that I do through that lens. I would say the biggest current challenge that economic developers face is one that our country faces, and that has to do with economic inclusion and mobility for those individuals who are finding themselves at the lower income strata. Certainly we know that wealth distribution in our country has stratified even much more than what it had been even 20 years ago. And so that forces economic developers to think differently about their roles also. We should be thinking differently about, well, for whom are the jobs we are creating? And are we focused only on the most high-paying jobs in our community, but also should we be focused on jobs and investment that impact those indigenous people or perhaps those people who've been left behind? And so that creates a new dilemma because our work has not historically been oriented that way. That requires us building new relationships, perhaps with organizations that formerly we didn't ordinarily engage. It also requires us to perhaps think differently about our metrics. And oftentimes these deals or these investments in more distressed areas may be harder and they may take a longer time, they may have a longer time horizon. So we'll need to think definitely much more critically, but it is important for us to think about that because after all, we do represent the community. So I'd give two pieces of advice. One, someone's always watching. So make sure that you always do the right thing regardless of whether or not you think someone is watching at all. Economic development is an area, unfortunately, historically we've taken a lot of hits in terms of thinking, old school thinking about backdoor deals or secrecy. But obviously the privacy that in which we do our work is really important for us to have. But because of that, we have to maintain the highest standards of integrity. So it's very important that we make sure that we maintain that. So that would be the first. So the second part, the second piece of advice has to do with your reputation. So this is a highly networked field, and it's very important for you to maintain your reputation, working very honestly, ethically, and very collaboratively. And obviously that's an area that we don't want to backstab, but we want to support. So there's a word called coopetition. And I like that word because that describes a lot of what we do in economic development with our peers, that in often cases we're cooperating with others, but we're competing at the same time. So just being able to maintain that balance in a healthy way is an important aspect. Well, certainly it's provided me a lot of the tools that I need to do my work. So this is a prime place where I understand how our economic development tools can evolve, and I've been able to through the conferences and trainings and networking, that's helped me to understand how these tools work in my day-to-day job. But beyond that, it's also provided me a great network. I've indicated that economic development is a highly networked profession. It's very important that we continue and maintain those networks in order to be successful, and IEDC has definitely done that for me. I'd just say that making sure that we continue to keep our eyes on the prize, and that prize may change. And our country is in a very unique position right now, and we need to think about how our work really will impact and help to change the country and propel the country in a new way. And I think it will be important for economic developers to cast our work through that new lens. Economic development we are much more connected to other disciplines. For example, planning or workforce development or community development. And making sure that we build those connections and add to our toolkit, our skill set, so that we can understand the interaction between our field, which may have been traditionally about recruitment and investment, into new ways in terms of understanding how those disciplines interact with one another.